So I had some trouble trying to show visually the differences between all these different monitors on camera. In person, there's a night and day difference between the image quality of these, but trying to shoot them, they all sort of just look like overexposed monitors when I'm filming them. So I thought I'd get my friend Daniel here and we'd compare all the monitors side by side, looking at the same footage at the exact same time. So for our first video, we've got the latest Daniel's worked on.
This is a 4-drive Mahindra Adventure event on Fraser Island, shot with a variety of different cameras. It's a C70, drone, a Mavic 2, GoPros.
So what we're gonna do is look at the same video playing on all 5 monitors at the exact same time and tell you visually what we're seeing are the differences between each of the monitors.
Mate, I'm ready. I've never seen this many monitors in one space.
Here we go.
Well, okay. Already I can see a couple of noticeable differences between them.
All right, so this is the Atomos 7-inch. It's less contrasty and I feel like it sort of looks like a 10-year-old LCD. Like there's less contrast, the colors aren't quite as nice. It's totally functional and I love that it's a recorder, but the image quality immediately stands out as the worst of the bunch to me.
I'd call it washed out, like desaturated, washed out. It's interesting also, like with the light in the room, I can see some differences in reflectiveness as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tricky because, I mean, my Shinobi feels like it's got the vibrancy and the contrast.
Daniel's an Atomos guy. This is his Shinobi.
Yeah, I actually came here thinking my monitor is going to be the crappiest out of them all because it's probably the cheapest here, and it's not a recorder. It's not like anything fancy like these other ones. And I'm surprised that I'm actually enjoying this monitor. Okay, yeah, I'd say the M1 is actually got that same sort of vibrancy and contrast that I like in the Shinobi.
Yeah.
I'd say the two SmallHDs, however, are very consistently the same. The Shogun by far stands out as the worst one here, I'd say.
Yeah. I feel like the SmallHDs both have the most contrast.
Ooh.
So these aren't bad, but when I compare this to this, the blacks look blacker.
The Mars one's actually super sharp.
Yeah.
I'd say also the SmallHD one.
Yeah. So that's 702 touch. These 4 are definitely 1080p panels. I'm not sure what that is. So they should be the same number of pixels. So the sharpness should be the same. But I feel like, yeah, these pop more to me.
This feels like old school iPhone or something where it's like not retina. Also the distance between the glass and the screen is like larger. Like it's like behind the glass.
All right, so we've ruled that one out. Shinobi versus M1. What's the main differences between them?
The color accuracy, I'd feel like, because I mean, I just literally edited this on my nice monitor at home. I feel like the colors are more accurate in this one.
Yeah.
This one, it's pretty close.
And it's so close, I'd call them equal. As in, even the casing is roughly the same size. The bezels are roughly the same size.
Yeah.
This has the aerials at the top, but they almost look like different versions of the same monitor.
Just go back to that. One thing I would say, Bart, is this thing feels like... I've had this Shinobi for so long, and obviously, as you can see from the footage, I've gone into the most remote locations, bashed this thing around in the back of the car, and it survived. But this just feels tougher.
Yeah, but I agree. I had the same feeling. I wasn't expecting it to be that strong out of the box.
And then one thing I also like is the fact that it's got a side thread.
Yeah.
Unlike having like a monitor cage, this one's actually out of the box, I guess, got another thread.
Yeah.
Hang on,
Small HDs come with those on both sides already.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I just noticed your cold shoe on here.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, the cheap monitor.
Yeah. This wins best value.
Yeah.
And I think you're not losing anything by going this one. You're gaining the wireless transmitter and receiver, and you're not losing any image quality compared to the Atomos.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I wouldn't feel like, if I like this one, I wouldn't feel like I'm going backwards by going this.
Yeah.
I actually like the fact, I like a small form factor, like that's why I prefer a 5-inch screen over a 7. And the fact that if I was HDMI transmitting, the fact that it's built in, I don't have to try and find a spot to mount that.
Yeah.
And another cable that could get bumped and snap the HDMI
Especially
port.
on an FX3 or a smaller form factor camera. Like the FX6, I put a wireless transmitter on, it's no big deal. But on the FX3, having this, it's all a compact package still, unlike cables everywhere. Even just like running the extra HDMI or SDI cable out to the transmitter, and then having to power that as well, it's such a pain in the butt compared to this.
It is interesting why they've got a HDMI out when it's built in with a HDMI transmitter.
Although you could also use that as a receiver. So if I put a transmitter on the camera, have that off camera as the receiver, you could then run that out into a TV or something.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how often you do that.
Monitor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Okay. That's like pretty cool. Use my current setup and add this in.
Yeah.
I guess then I'd run into the fact that I'd have to then put a transmitter on my setup.
Yeah.
Which they don't. That's this one here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not massive. I mean, even that feels like good quality.
Image quality here compared to the SmallHDs. I love this, but maybe I'm biased because I know it's the best.
When I look at this guy's face, I'm more looking at him in real life on this one. It just seems a little bit more like it's popping out or it's sharper or something.
Yeah.
And even colors, they look great. Maybe this one's a little bit more saturated, just by a fraction.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Man, viewing angle makes such a difference.
100%. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm used to seeing this footage, so I don't know if you've got some other shots that, like, variety-wise can...
Sweet. Here's my showreel.
Okay.
So this is a whole bunch of footage from FX3, FX6, Fuji X-T4, X-T3, graded at different times on different budgets, so it's a bit of everything.
Just pause there.
Yeah.
Can you notice, see the...
Yeah, the sky's rooted here.
Yeah. 100% the sky is like blown out in a line right here. I don't know if you can see it on the top camera. Like there's this line, this noticeable line right there that I can really see on the monitor here, but not on the others.
Yeah, so visually it looks like the sky's clipping in certain points here, whereas every other monitor, it's softly fading into white, whereas here, it looks like, yeah, it's clipped a little bit.
Would you say that's a feature?
A bad feature.
I can tell. I've overexposed my sky.
Yeah.
All right, play the show reel.
Here we roll. Obviously amazing cinematography.
It's not outdoorsy enough.
This looks like what I was trying to do, as in warm colors, but neutral background colors, like there's no tint to the white.
As for like pulling focus on all four of these, I'd be able to do a pretty good job. Maybe these two feel like they're a little bit more closer to the screen or something, so it feels like more present. I've obviously pulled focus with this a million times and not had an issue. Isaac's more an autofocus guy, so he uses it more for framing. I use it more for pulling focus. So I really rely on my screen to like give me the detail I need to do that.
One of my favorite things about the SmallHD monitors is that every shot looks beautiful on it, just the colors and the contrast and everything. So as I'm shooting client work, if the creative director is looking over my shoulder or if I'm playing back the footage, it just always looks good because it's a beautiful monitor. So I feel like I wouldn't get that from this Atomos monitor here or my old Focus 5. It was perfectly fine for pulling focus as the image is sharp enough, but just the image doesn't look nice on there. So to me, the new M1 monitor is good enough that if I was showing client work on there, I feel like it'd be showing my work in the best light as I'm recording or playing back the footage on the shoot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like the client's going to be impressed with what they see on here. If it was me, I don't like huge weighty screens on my balanced rig. So I would be going this on my camera and then this, because these two are probably the closest when it comes to like that nicer color sort of situation. And I'd be using this as my like client monitor. They're all, except for this guy, I'd say they're all pretty good.
Yeah. So we'll do one final test on these monitors, just playing around with the user interface on each of these for a second, just to see how quick and efficient it is to use. I'll start off with a SmallHD. So I love this because I can just tap once and then I've got all my settings right here. So super quick to adjust my settings. And then I've got separate views for everything here. So I can just swipe left to get my false colors and all my other settings here. So here's my anamorphic mode that'll stretch everything. And just changing individual tools, I've customized what I want here. Super quick and responsive. Do you want to show me that on your monitor?
Well, on this monitor, I actually find that the touch is sometimes not responsive enough. So you've got to really give it a whack, but there's definitely no sliding. You can't have predetermined screens, I guess. There's obviously the usual array of items down the bottom, which I have noticed is a similar setup to this guy down here.
This looks like a straight knockoff, except the buttons are slightly bigger, so they're easier to press, but the same sort of thing, and you've got the second menu there.
Yeah, which, once again, second menu over here, which I think is a swipe on this one. But I have played around with this and found that this one feels a lot more like responsive, and obviously I don't need to whack it as hard to get anything to happen at all, where this guy's like, sometimes you got to like try and give it a, like just then.
Yeah.
You got to really give it a whack.
How do you load LUTs on this?
Okay, so this one is into the side menu here. You need to go into your monitor, turn on your LUT, and then you go into this screen and change whichever ones you've preloaded in.
Yeah, so how do you preload one?
So SD card in the side. Obviously, you then go to your LUT.
Yeah.
And then add it into that
yeah,
section.
mine's
there.
the same on the SmallHDs. You just have a SD card. So on here, it's in the bottom. And on this monitor, it's in the top in a weather sealed section. So to load LUTs on the M1 monitor, there is no SD card. They just provide you this USB-A to USB-C cable. So I just plug that into my little memory card, plug that into the monitor, and then you can just import up to 5 LUTs. So it's cool that I don't need to buy an SD card and one's not included, but you do get this adapter included, which is really helpful. So to wrap up, the big Atomos is a bit old and outgunned by the image quality of these newer monitors. The Shinobi is amazing, and I'd call that the bang for buck champ. Out of what all these monitors cost here, it's by far the best image quality per dollar. So if you're looking for a 5-inch monitor and are on a budget, I'd definitely recommend that. And I actually like it more after this comparison, whereas before I used to hate on it a bit because of the menu structure.
But I would say that this one does not have SDI in.
Yeah.
Where oh, does this one have SDI?
No.
Okay, but these three do.
Yeah.
So I guess obviously between these two, if you're going to upgrade your camera later on, or I don't know, something else.
So they all have SDI in, and they all have HDMI out as well. So that's what's allowing us to do this. So whether you wanted to chain that into a transmitter or receiver or a big TV or something, there is a lot more input and output options.
Yeah, well, this is just HDMI. That's it.
Yeah.
In, and that's all.
Another cool thing on this SmallHD is it has a DC barrel in, so I can just run a power cable directly in without needing a dummy battery. You've got the same thing on the M1. Another advantage here is it also actually has the same DC barrel power output, so I can run this directly off a V-mount battery cable without needing a dummy battery, and then I can actually run a barrel cable out into something else. That's a feature that I don't see on any of these other monitors, is power output. So what's your favorite?
I'm a 5-inch monitor guy, so let's try and remove that obviously from the mix because there's a lot of larger sizes here. I would actually say my favorite 3 to start off with is these 3 here. I only ever need one input, I don't need outputs. However, I do like the idea of the combination you're having where it's like you have these two. I'd remove that from your camera, put that as the client monitor, and then have this guy on my camera, perfect smaller dimension, but also outputting HDMI without having the need to attach a transmitter to the camera at any point.
Once and tell you what we're seeing.
No, do it again. GoPros, that is all.
Sweet.
Good that I got this stuff up done.